interesting subject on this morning's Open Up. We're going to be talking about UFOs, and with us are two authors, Mr. Don Elkins and Miss Carla Rueckert. And they have written this book, which is Secret of the UFO. And we're going to talk about just about everything we can about UFOs and latest developments, latest sightings. I think now, since we have movies like Close Encounters, and one of the networks is putting on a series about UFOs, that it's a timely subject, I guess. Now, you just came back from Mexico today, right?
That's right.
What was the purpose of that trip?
Well, the purpose of the trip was actually medical research, a paranormal medical research. But as a secondary purpose, we did a little bit of investigating with respect to UFOs. We talked to several people who had communications from UFO sources. And we have found that there are people all over the world now that have these alleged communications from UFO sources that match the material that we got out from the people in Mexico, correlated precisely with the material that has been communicated for the past approximately 30 years. And
you have another job besides this, I mean, a regular job where you pick up a paycheck, I guess.
Right.
Finances what you do here. This is all on your own, your research.
This is totally on my own.
So when you take a trip to Mexico, it's all out of your own pocket.
Right, that's right.
Now, how did you and Carla both get involved in this? That's what we'd like to find that out.
Well, in 1962, when I was in college, Don was a professor, and he asked some selected students of his if we would like to try a little experiment. We didn't know very much about the experiment when we started, but what it ended up to be was an experiment which is described in our book.
Is that telepathic?
Yes, having to do with attempting to contrive or manufacture the type of contactee information that Don had been collecting for years from all over the world. The experiment was incredibly successful from the point of view of collecting the same type of data without we students knowing anything about it previously. And it intrigued me so much that I kept up with his work, and in 1970 I went to work with him full-time and have been with him ever since.
Now, do you have another job besides this?
No, I don't anymore.
So you're both working as a team.
Yeah.
You've been involved in this for a long time.
Right, for about 25 years. I'd like to add something about this Mexico trip. As I say, the primary purpose of the trip was medical research, but it's of a paranormal type, and it's UFO related. I got into this as a result of the study of UFOs. Quite a few people know today that there's a thing called psychic surgery. It's primarily done in the Philippines. Surgeons go into the body barehanded and pull out bloody parts. There's a lot of controversy about this, but we went to Mexico to investigate a healer that operates with a Bowie knife, no antiseptic, no anesthetic, cuts into the body, and performs surgery. We observed several operations, and we're both operated on ourselves.
You are?
Yes.
What for?
Carla had a kidney transplant, and I had a very minor operation.
This was just, you had a...
This was just performed, yes.
How long?
As a matter of fact, it was performed less than 100 hours ago.
And, a kidney transplant?
He even took a picture before we came down with a Polaroid camera so you could see the fresh scars. I hope your stomachs are strong.
Yes, here are the scars. We took the pictures about 3 hours ago. You can...
Do we have a camera that can pick this up? Well, this is... how is this... First of all, I don't know if you can see the scar there.
There were actually two operations. This was the first one. This Mexican peasant lady says to me in Spanish through an interpreter, "I'll just take out your kidneys, wash them off, and put them back. And if they're not good enough, I'll take the two halves, put them together, and transplant a new one in the other side," which is exactly what she did. The top fading scar was done about 2 weeks ago, and 4 days ago she did the
there was
transplant.
No No sort of anesthesia at all involved in it?
No, there was nothing, although the healing, as you can see, is very well advanced.
I don't know what this has to do with UFOs, but I mean, this is a fascinating thing in
Well, this
itself.
is a very advanced part of UFO research. You get into all kinds of things when you start with UFOs.
I mention this because the UFO phenomena is very far-reaching, and the UFO phenomena actually led me into this type of research. This is going to London. I'm going to mail at the airport tonight. It goes to a medical doctor who was present at the surgery Wednesday night. He left for London yesterday, and this will catch up with you.
Is surgery like that legal in America?
It's not legal almost anywhere, which is why we haven't said too much about the specifics. This kind of healing, although it has existed for many years, has not been recognized by the medical profession in an orthodox sense. And although medical people all over the world are working hard to bring all of this kind of healing into one.
Well, it's obvious
barn.
if you had a kidney transplant, you must have had some major health problems.
Oh yes, I've been on disability for a year with arthritis, and the arthritis came from kidney failure when I was 13. An interesting part of this healer, and this is true of many healers like this, is that when I came to her with arthritis, she didn't even listen to me. She went straight for the kidneys. She said, all your troubles are coming from the kidneys. Diagnosis, everything, from a simple peasant lady who couldn't possibly know.
And now how did she get the ability to do this? Is that how the involvement
This
with
is
UFO
one of the things that we're
in?
investigating.
Let me back up now and show you how this connects to the UFO phenomenon.
Yes.
Dr. Andrija Puharic is a medical doctor. He wrote the book Uri, about Uri Geller. The book
You
Uri,
mentioned in your book,
right,
too.
The book Uri is primarily about UFO contact. Dr. Puharic is the leader of the medical team investigating the healer in Mexico. We have been with him, and he was present and observed both Carla's surgery and the surgery on myself. We believe that both surgical operations have been successful. We'll know for sure in a few months. Now, the healing phenomena, the paranormal healing phenomena, is related to the UFO phenomena very, very closely. If you study UFO literature, you will find that in a large number of cases, miraculous healings occur when a person is either in close contact with a UFO or is taken on board a UFO. I'll give you a few examples. An 80-year-old Argentinian who had no teeth at all was in close contact with the UFO. A bright light was shined on him, and he subsequently grew a third set of perfect teeth. Highway patrolman in Louisiana had an alligator bite on his hand. He came in close contact with the UFO, and instantly the alligator bite healed. A doctor in France had a cut on his leg, a very deep cut with an axe. A bright light from UFO shined on his leg. Actually, it was over his entire body, but the leg healed instantly without a scar. A hunter in the West was taken on board a UFO, and after he returned from this alleged journey, he was examined in a hospital and found to have no tuberculosis scars, and he had very bad tuberculosis scars in the lungs prior to the encounter. This is repeated and repeated and repeated over and over again. And part of a deep investigation of the UFO phenomena includes the healing phenomena, and that's what led us to Mexico.
Now, how did this little peasant lady find out she had the ability to do this, or what's her story?
This story is, all of these stories are fantastic, and is so far out of the normal that it's very difficult to get into a total explanation until you have a large background. But to make a long story short, she claims to, well, let's say that when she is in the altered state of consciousness, a voice speaking through her claims to be Cuauhtemoc, son of Montezuma. And Cuauhtemoc is a discarnate entity that operates through the woman and takes over her body and actually does the surgery. Now, Dr. Puharic was allowed to pull the knife out of a patient. This just happened last week. And he grabbed the knife, and he has a very calibrated pull. He's practiced. And he pulled a ½ pound and nothing happened. Put on a pound and nothing happened. He got up to 10 pounds before the knife came out. He said it was like it was held in the body by a magnet. When she did the kidney transplant, she put the knife in the body, slit through the entire back, made a slit for the kidney, placed the kidney beside the knife blade, and the kidney was drawn into the body as if by a vacuum.
Now, you were awake this whole time.
I certainly was.
What did you feel, Doreen?
It hurt a lot, actually. It's not like psychic surgery, barehanded psychic surgery, where there's almost no pain. There seems to be a different process working here. We're still working on the theory, the process of it, and we'll have a lot more work to do, but there seems to be more of a blend of magnetic fields between what the Chinese might call the electrical body, or some people call the finer body or the astral body, and the physical body, so that the field is more joining the two, and things are actually happening in the physical body as well as the electrical body. That's probably why it hurts, probably why she uses a knife.
Oh, where was this operation performed? In her home?
Mexico.
I know that, but I mean in her home, or?
Yes. It was performed at her home.
Are there any government officials around at all that see this?
There was this is a ticklish subject. I can't really talk about this. There was a
Moving right along.
There was a government official present. There were 3 Mexican doctors, a doctor from London, and Andrea Pujarich from New York, who was a medical doctor. It is a fringe area of legality.
A government official that was there as an American government?
No.
No.
A Mexican government official, yes. I can't mention his name.
You must understand that these things are well understood by many doctors who bring their patients to healers like this all over the world, and yet since the official picture is such that there are actually laws against practicing medicine without a license, you can't become too publicized, talk too much about it, or you will not only damage the healer, but cause him to go completely out of business.
Weren't you really afraid to go through a thing like this? I would think it's a major operation, kidney transplant. And where did the kidney come from that you received?
That's another cause for conjecture. We looked all over and couldn't find one through our normal medical sources. And then the healer simply had one, and Dr. Pujarich theorizes that she materializes them.
Strange. We got to get to the phones. There are a lot of calls. Line 4, you're on Open Up.
Well, that was just my question.
Hello, line 4, you're on the air.
Other kidney come from, but also I'd like to know if either one of these people have had any personal experiences with UFOs.
I'm sorry, sir, we missed the first part of your question. Could you ask it again?
Part of the question was, you had already asked that just before I got on the air about where the kidney came from, and that the second part of it was, have either one of these individuals actually had any personal contact with UFOs?
Okay, thank you.
I've personally seen 2 UFOs. I know a UFO when I see it. Don't count something that is not identified as an unidentified flying object as being a UFO. I've seen a lot of things I couldn't identify, but I've seen 2 UFOs that are definitely UFOs. I have performed an experiment with over 100 people in fabricating what I call telepathic contactees. A very large percentage of these people have seen UFOs shortly after going through a training program that we've developed.
What exactly did you see when you saw a UFO?
Well, I saw a white disk make a 45-degree turn at a very high velocity with a 0 radius. This is a UFO. We don't have any aircraft that make 0 radius turns. It was relatively close. I was flying myself at the time in the cockpit at approximately 33,000 feet. I also observed another high-altitude UFO making right-angle turns at high speed high over the desert and approximately over Albuquerque, New Mexico. This was observed for 15 minutes. 3 of us observed it. I've been present when several other observations were made that I personally didn't see, but were witnessed by several good observers who were in the area.
Carla, how about you? Have you ever come across a UFO?
As a matter of
I don't believe any of it. What's your first argument?
It's all right. I have no argument. If you don't want to believe in UFOs, fine. If you're interested in it, I'll tell you anything I know.
Interestingly enough, J. Allen Hynek, who is a fantastically great researcher and has done a lot of really sound work in this field, sent a questionnaire out to about 100 scientists recently. At the top of the questionnaire was a small fact sheet, about 1 or 2 pages, and described some of the well-known sightings. Then there was a questionnaire, and the question was, had you ever heard about any of this, and are you interested in knowing more? All of the scientists that replied said they didn't know, and they would really love to hear more. They're astronomers, they didn't know these things were happening. And that's the way most people are who don't believe in UFOs. They really don't know the data.
Okay. Line 4, you're on Open Up. Sorry, we can't hear you. Could you ask it again, please?
Yes, I was wondering if, you know, if somebody in your...
Don't listen to the TV, sir. Listen through the telephone. We're on a delay.
family had a...
See, so we get one of these a week. Just listen through your telephone, sir. I'm gonna have to cut him off. We can't get to his question. We just can't figure it out. I don't know why he's gonna ask you about a UFO if he can't figure the delay out. How many, on the percentage of sightings, how many are actually real and how many, because you always hear the old swamp gas thing.
Oh, well, I would say reported UFOs, a large number, or a large percentage, I couldn't guess what percentage, just weather balloons or normal phenomena. We're not really interested in the ones that can be mistaken for something. The ones that I'm interested in are the ones that can't be mistaken for anything but a UFO. Like a ship lands, an entity gets out, he talks to you, he invites you in the craft, you go in, you have an experience, you get certain information from him. And this happens so many times, and it's happening so often now, that we don't have to worry about, well, is that a UFO or not? Is that a weather balloon? That's unimportant.
When you say it happens so often, like what?
Well,
a week you hear of one?
Well, about 3 years ago, there were 2,000 good cases like this, and they're increasing now. I get information from all over the world, and every month we have several of these cases. Now, if you didn't know anything about UFOs, a lot of these cases would seem totally ridiculous. But after building up intelligence, this is just like working as a detective or an intelligence officer in the military, you build up your intelligence. And then when you get a report, you know what to look for, you know the questions to ask, and you see that these things form a pattern, and you begin to recognize the puzzle pieces. Years ago, you know, it took me a long time to fit a piece into the puzzle. Now, each piece makes sense. It goes into the puzzle. Of course, every once in a while you get a piece that makes absolutely no sense at all. We don't know whether that's a hoax, invalid, or whether it's a new piece of data that we don't know how to use yet.
What's an example of somebody that, what did they see when they got on the ship or went for a ride or whatever they do when they get on there?
Give you the case of Sergeant Moody. This was 2 years ago at Alamogordo, New Mexico. He was out watching a small meteor shower all by himself in the desert, standing outside his car, when a disc-shaped ship came down and landed in front of the car. He was scared to death, but he couldn't move. An entity about 4.5 feet tall, humanoid, got out, walked over to him, and touched him. When the entity touched him, Sergeant Moody lost all fear. He then communicated, not verbally, but telepathically. This is 90% of the cases, the communication is said to be telepathic. The entity took him on board the ship, and Moody asked to see the drive unit. He was taken down below and shown the drive unit. The way he described the drive unit was what I would have expected. It made sense from what I already knew. Now, Sergeant Moody was very, very reluctant to tell anybody about this. He found that he had to contact somebody, and he contacted APRO, the Aerial Phenomenal Research Organization in Tucson, Arizona. He is still keeping this covered up. I mean, he's in the Air Force. He's a career Air Force sergeant. And he doesn't want the information out. Since there are a number of Sergeant Moody's in the Air Force, we're not really giving away anything by saying that.
Would seem to me, if you had come across a thing like that, you'd be scared to death after it happened.
He was, but when the first thing that he said in the interview was that when the entity touched him, he lost all fear. That's a puzzle piece. That's one we know. We know that that happens time and time again. So this is not surprising.
Another thing that I'm wondering about, if these people run into these different UFOs, I imagine each one is a little different, right?
Oh,
each story?
Yes, indeed.
Okay, where are they coming from? What planets? Or we don't know.
Well, first let me say that 60% of the humanoids reported that are occupants are approximately 4.5 feet tall. They look like us. They have 5 fingers on their hand. They are obviously not from Earth. If one got on the bus, you'd know that he wasn't from around here. 14% look enough like us that they could get on the bus and never be noticed. Then the rest of the percentage varies from 3 feet tall to up to 15, 18 feet tall. They're a very wide range. We suspect that they come from several hundred different places in this galaxy and possibly outside the galaxy. Now, the question is always asked, well, how can they do this and why don't they leave traces behind? Well, they do leave traces behind. There are over 1,000 landing trace evidence cases now where landing traces have been examined. There are 80,000 bits of evidence in Northwestern University's computer. They can now tell when a ship lands. They can measure the tripod marks or whatever marks it makes on the ground. From those marks, they can tell what the ship looks like. They know what the witness is going to say before they interview the witness, simply by measuring the marks. There's enough data now.
Now, who are we saying does all this research?
Well, this is CUFO, Center for UFO Studies. This is headed by J. Allen Hynek.
That's nothing to do with the government, right?
No. J. Allen Hynek was the consultant on the movie Close Encounters of the Third Kind. He is professor of astronomy at Northwestern University. He was chief consultant, civilian consultant to the Air Force from 1948 to 1968. He's the dean of ufology in the United States. Now, there is another aspect to the UFO that, since we don't have too much time on the program, I'll just jump right into. The reason why these things are elusive, why they leave these traces and then we can't track them down. They not only come from different places in space, from our point of view, they come from different places in time. That is, there are more dimensions to time that are recognized by our contemporary society. Physics, our modern physics, is recognizing this. It is definitely recognizing that there are more dimensions in time than we recognize normally. It's not at all off the wall for a physicist, an orthodox physicist in a university today, to recognize the fact that the dimensions, the normal 3 dimensions of space and 1 of time, is not a correct solution to our universe. And so the fact that these ships travel not only in space but also in time is
saying from the future back. I mean,
well,
coming from the future.
No, it's more than that. Just to say time has a past and future is not enough. You have to say that time has a field similar to space. If we can move 3-dimensionally in space, we can move 3-dimensionally in time. And the craft have been photographed in such a way that evidence indicates that they are time travelers, that they are able, as far as we're concerned, to travel the entire width of the galaxy in 0 time, as far as we're concerned. So we don't have the limitation of thinking, well, if light goes at 186,000 miles per second, it's going to take forever, 100,000 years to get across the galaxy. We don't even have to worry about them coming from another galaxy, if this theory is correct. And there are a lot of people now that are supporting this theory, that these craft are, you might say, materializing in our space just the way this television picture materializes in your living room.
And see, at the same time, there are other channels. I mean, you have to face that at this station, that there are other channels.
We didn't know.
And, well, I thought you might, but we're sitting here, say, on one channel,
Right.
and there are other realities,
so in other words, where it
other
might be
fields of space-time.
One sighting, say, in Arizona from one period of time.
Well, say this
And there
this
would be
thing.
another one in New York. Say,
No,
from
I'm
another
not
period.
saying that.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
saying that something appears into our reality and disappears. This is so often reported in a UFO sighting. What's happening is simply switching channels. It's coming into our channel of existence, if you will, and then leaving it.
I promise the phone callers we're going to get to you, but first we got to take a break and we'll be back. We're talking about UFOs, a lot of questions, a lot of calls. We're going to get them right after this. That's some UFO music for you. There's the book that is written by Mr. Don Elkins and Ms. Carla Rueckert, our guests, on Open Up this morning. We did promise to take phone calls. We got a bunch of them. Let's go to line 2. You're on Open Up.
Yes, I'd like to know if you have found any similarities between the Bible and UFO.
You wanted to get into that?
Well, that's not really my area of expertise. There have been several books written about the Bible and UFOs. We have done an extensive investigation of the communications, allegedly from UFOs. Most of the communications have to do with what you would normally call religious concepts. They support quite a bit in the Bible, and I believe they explain quite a bit about some of the things that we don't really understand about the Bible.
Okay, I hope that answered your question. What would you do if one came to you?
I'd say take me to your leader.
Really, you don't think you'd be scared?
They'd have a difficult time getting me.
Is that your goal, is to come across
No, I wouldn't say that that's my goal. My goal is to find out as much as I possibly can. Of course, that would be one of the best ways. And if I ever get the chance, I'll make a beeline in the door.
Okay. Line 4, you're on Open Up.
I wanted to ask him about, since he knew Puharich, I wanted to ask him about Spectra, who, you know, is a spaceship that Geller was supposedly on, and about the car teleporting, and Geller teleporting in New York, and a car supposedly being teleported in Ray Sanford's car in Texas.
Right.
Okay.
I know Ray.
Familiar with that, huh?
I know Ray, I know Uri, it all happens. I've seen objects move by themselves. I've had bottles fly across the room, keys bend, all sorts of things happen. I've observed all these phenomena. They're real. Geller was teleported from in front of Dan Waddell's apartment. I was just with Dan yesterday, and Dan's also in Mexico. Geller disappeared and reappeared 35 miles north up at Ossining, fell through Puharich's screen door.
As a matter of fact, he fell about 9 feet up, almost at the top of the screening before the roof. And Dr. Puharich didn't want to have it fixed. He kept saying, well, I wanted to show that it's really there, but unfortunately the other people working with him insisted on having it fixed.
Now, we're talking a lot about, or is it Uri?
Uri Geller.
Geller, and can we get a little background on just who he is?
Well, Uri Geller is the famed Israeli psychic who is able to bend metal mentally. There's a lot of controversy about Geller. Some people say, well, he really doesn't do it mentally, he does it by trick. Well, this is ridiculous because we know thousands of children that do it, age 7 to 15 or so, and they haven't learned the trick. They just, well, John Taylor, who's professor of mathematics at King's College London, has sealed metal strips inside a glass tubing. A glass blower seals it. There's no way to get in there. He has the kids stare at it and tell it to bend or break, and it bends or breaks. He's done this time and time and time again. There are so many people around now that can do the Geller phenomena that it's really old hat. And Geller happens to be the one who's going around doing it on the stage. I have a key in my pocket here that Geller bent. He did this strictly by asking the key to bend, and it bent. It's a heavy metal key.
Does he do a lot of concentrating on it?
No, it bends right away if the right people are around. If he gets a bunch of skeptics around, he has more trouble. This type of phenomena, it seems, is very dependent upon the attitude of the observers in addition to the attitude of the person creating the phenomena. That's why there's so much controversy about Geller.
To give you an idea of how all this fits together, Geller is able to do healing, although it scares him, and he doesn't like to talk about it or to do it in public. And he although he doesn't like to talk about this either, his powers date from a UFO experience as a small boy.
He's had
You see
a
how it all
number of
ties together.
experiences with UFOs, I imagine, Geller.
Geller's experiences with UFOs started when he was 3 years old, and then there was a gap that lasted until about 1972 when Puharich was with him in Israel. Then they had a lot of UFO experiences, and Andrea Puharich received several hundred, I would say, communications allegedly from UFO on his cassette tape recorder. The recorder buttons would go down by themselves as if they were pushed by invisible fingers, and the recorder would run. He'd rewind it, play it back, it'd be a message from a UFO. Now, when I read the data, I knew that they weren't joking, because since 1962, 10 years earlier, I'd been involved in an experiment producing telepathic contactees, and the information we had correlated about 95% with the information that Andrea Puharich got on his cassette tape recorder in Israel.
What type of voice was on the tape?
It was an English-speaking voice. Sometimes it sounded human. Sometimes it made mistakes in grammar. And sometimes it sounded somewhat mechanical or computerized.
How come with all this stuff that goes on, so many people have made sightings, or people such as yourselves that are firm believers in it, that spend almost, you told me earlier that your job is just secondary, that the only reason you work at all is just to make money to continue your research. Why doesn't the government get in on this? Why do they keep putting it in the closet?
Well, the government is in on it, but they are afraid of it. For instance, I investigated a contactee in Tennessee about 4 months ago. The next week I got a call from the Assistant Administrator of Special Projects, NASA. He talked to me for 45 minutes on the phone about this. He's the man that said no to Carter about NASA getting into...
It was about a month ago.
Yeah, UFO investigation about a month ago. The problem is, it is such a soft data science that the orthodox investigator finds it non-productive. It is, if you have to report to somebody, if you have to say, this is how I'm spending the money, and we're doing this with it, and it's producing this, you're in trouble. The reason you're in trouble is that this science is the same as, say, trying to investigate radio waves before the development of the bow and arrow. We need different types of techniques. It's such a new science that the old techniques don't work, and the orthodox people cannot be productive.
Almost the only techniques that show a sign of working now are the techniques in the so-called new physics, where they talk about the observer being a part of the phenomenon. This kind of thinking will probably slowly open up new techniques for working with UFO witnesses and for discovering why they're really here. One thing I wanted to say about the question about spectra, the question really, when it comes down to why are they working through people like Uri Geller, Dr. Puharich, all the contactees, and I think it's really an important question, and it has to do with their basic philosophy, which is what the book is about. They truly believe in the free will of the people of Earth. They have things that they would like to tell us, but they do not want to land on the White House lawn or something and force us to believe what they know. We would obviously pay a great deal of attention to them, if they were to do so, because they have a
Probably
superior
also
technology.
There'd be a reaction similar to the Orson Welles radio show. In the
There might be
30s.
panic, there might be adoration, neither of which they allegedly want at all. They simply want to get the word out. It would be like if I had a neighbor, I could say pretty much what I wanted to the neighbor, you know, you shouldn't beat your wife or whatever, because I'm just a neighbor. The neighbor can shut his door on me. But if someone that was a greater being than he came to his door and said, "You shall not beat your wife," then that would press that person to change his behavior, and they won't do it. They simply make available the same kinds of thoughts, the same kinds of ethics, if you will, that the major religions deal with.
Well, what are they trying to tell us?
I'll try to condense what has come out of my investigation of contactee information. Now, there's a lot of contactee information. Let's say that 5% of it is technical. 5% of it has to do with political and fringe areas. But 90% of it has to do with the evolution of man, the evolution of man's mind on Earth. It is a very complex set of catalytic phenomena, you might say, specifically programmed and designed to create a condition on Earth that will allow Earth man to progress in a mental evolution. This is what comes out of the communications anyway. It seems that the basic philosophy is that throughout all of space, people inhabit numerous planets. The people of any particular planet are at a certain stage in their evolution and thinking. On Earth, we're not at a very accelerated, we're not at a very elevated stage of thinking.
As compared to
many
the
other
people
places.
on the UFOs.
Yeah. Now, it seems that when a society reaches a certain stage in their evolution of thought, it then becomes necessary for the society to do certain things that will accelerate the evolution of thought on planets not so far along. Now, the techniques used are none of the techniques that we'd ever dream of. That's what comes out of the communications anyway. The techniques used are techniques that produce what we call the UFO phenomena.
Okay.
And the UFO phenomena has the objective of creating an evolution. It has the objective of creating an evolution that leads to total unification and total brotherhood and a very highly advanced way of thinking. No wars, no normal problems. Now, of course, everybody says that, you know, that's just a utopian fantasy. But these communications come from people all over the world, and they come from people who have no possible way of getting information. I mean, you go in the most remote areas and you find people who've received these communications.
Back to the little lady in Mexico that performed your operation.
That's right.
Okay. Line 3, you're on Open Up.
Yes, I had 3 questions I wanted to ask you. The first one was, how many UFO experiences are there in Georgia? The second one is, how realistic were the UFOs portrayed in Close Encounters of the Third Kind? I mean, the visions and the UFOs attacking the house, so to say, and the blackout of the city. And my third question was to Mr. Elkins. What, to him, was the most spectacular UFO sighting of this decade?
3 good questions. Thank you. Remember them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how many there were in Georgia. I have no idea. A lot. That's all. I can only guess. Over 1,000 at least. The UFOs in Close Encounters were very nicely done. The big one at the end was nothing that I'd ever seen before. The way they acted, especially the smaller UFOs, was fairly correct. The communication with the music in Close Encounters was nothing that I'm familiar with. It's communications are not normally done by music. There are too many other ways. The primary method I've mentioned is telepathic. What was the third question?
The blackout. The blackout is a quite common UFO phenomenon, as is the car dying and things moving around in the presence of UFOs.
Third question was the most spectacular sighting you know of, or most interesting, I'd imagine.
Well, that's really difficult to say. With the most spectacular sighting, there have been a lot of spectacular sightings. Probably the best witnessed was the Travis Walton case 2 years ago near Heber, Arizona. Travis and 6 other forestry workers were going home in a truck when they saw a disc-shaped UFO hover. Travis jumped out of the truck, ran under the UFO, and the UFO started to wobble. I believe that he possibly got in the field so that he was in danger of being killed if the ship either accelerated away or was forced to land because of his position. And they just shot him with a beam and knocked him unconscious. So the other forestry workers panicked and took off like a shot. They took Travis on board. He was kept for 5 days. He saw both the 4.5-foot humanoid but not Earthman type entity, and he saw several very Earthman type people, very good looking, seemingly Earth people who communicated a little with him.
Male and female? Male
and female. The other forestry workers were given lie detector tests. They passed. They were investigated by APRO, by James Harder, who's professor of engineering at Berkeley, by J. Allen Hynek from Northwestern University. APRO has a staff of professors on their board, and quite a few of them got into the act in the investigation, and
we have to take another break. More phone calls and more talk about UFOs. So if you have a question, give us a call here on Open Up. We'll be back after this. We're talking about UFOs with Don Elkins and Carla Rueckert. They're the authors of this book called Secret of the UFO, Secrets of the UFO. And if you'd like to get it, it's an interesting book. It tells of different sightings. It tells of the telepathic communication, and also more about Uri Geller that we talked about. The address for it is LL Research, Post Office Box 629, Croton on Hudson, okay, New York 10520. We'll repeat the address a little bit later on to make sure. What's the cost of that book?
$5. It's
okay, it's worth it. It's a lot of good reading. Line number 1, you're on Open Up.
Yeah, I would like to know if anybody ever run into a UFO, how should they react? You know, should they go to the police, run, or even something like that?
Okay, thank you. That's a fair enough question. What do you do if you make a sighting?
I would recommend that you do this.
After you change your underwear.
All right. Don't touch it if you're very close, because you could get burned. Don't go inside. Don't go near it unless you're invited. If you're invited, go ahead. They're not going to hurt you. They're very nice people. Report it, definitely. There's several places to report it. If you report it to your local police, they may or may not report it to the Center for UFO Studies. It depends on the type of report. There are several agencies, and they're all listed in our book. Center for UFO Studies in Chicago, it's Northwestern University, and one in Tucson, Arizona, another in Washington, D.C., and one in Quincy, Illinois.
That's about it. The best thing would be just, first of all, call the police. They have a line, I think.
They have a line. The police have a phone number for the Center for UFO Studies, but they only report very good cases. Unfortunately, a lot of the cases go unreported just simply because of problems in communication, cost.
Okay, line 2, you're on the air.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. You're on the air right now, sir. hope you can hear me. Sir, yeah, you're on the air right
I
now.
just wanted to ask you a couple of questions. One, does the U.S., do they ever suppress any maybe real heavy information about UFOs? And another question, why do the aliens seemingly always contact, say, the peasants in our society instead of, say, someone who could maybe help our society, say, like the lady down in Mexico?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Well, there's a very good reason for contacting the so-called peasants, and that's explained in our book. But to make a long story short, we don't have anything but peasants in our society. If we landed a 747 in Egypt around, let's say, the year 1, who would we contact? Would we find anybody but peasants, really, intellectually? You know, there's a problem in communication. They're so far ahead of us that we all appear to be the same intellectually.
And there's another problem there, too. Allegedly, many of the heads of state have been contacted, and they have not moved on the information. And if you were president and you got this kind of information and you took it to the council and said, I think we ought to do this, the council would all say, no, I don't think that you should, because of, and then they would give you the reasons, panic, et cetera, et cetera. And I imagine that it's true that many presidents have sat on this information. It is no longer being sat on. There is no more cover-up. This is absolutely true. What has happened is they have declassified all of the classified stuff and put it into the Library of Congress under document numbers. There are millions of documents, and all you have to do is go through them and find the stuff.
President Carter, I think everyone knows, had a sighting, what, a year ago or 2 years ago?
About 73, possibly.
What is the story on that?
He just saw a UFO. I really don't. You know, he didn't have a close encounter. He saw a UFO at a distance. I don't really know what type.
I think the whole town saw it. It was seen by many.
Okay. Line 3, you're on Open Up.
Yes, I have 3 questions I'd like to ask. I'd like to know about the encounter that Eisenhower had with high government officials out in, I believe, someplace at Edwards Air Force Base with UFOs. I'd also like to know about a bunch of bodies that have been found out in Arizona that were found with a craft that had crashed. And I'd also like to know what you can tell me about George Van Tassel and what you know about his experiences. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Second question was interesting. I didn't know.
Yeah, I can't tell you anything about Eisenhower. I've heard a little bit about that alleged meeting, but I know nothing about it. I was never interested in following up on it. About the bodies that are supposed to be in Hangar 18 at Edwards Air Force Base, we have no evidence that there's anything to that story. It's possible, but I have personally spent, $500 in long-distance phone calls trying to track down someone who really could authenticate that story. I've come very close, and I have some very hot leads, including an Air Force general, and it just hasn't materialized yet. I don't know whether the bodies are there or not. I can't answer that question.
What was the story? There was a spaceship that had crashed in Arizona?
Crashed about almost 30 years ago is the story, and bodies were recovered and are still at either Wright-Patterson or Edwards Air Force Base.
Preserved.
To say we can't prove it. Now, the third question about George Van Tassel, I know him very well. In fact, I saw him in the Atlanta airport about 2 years ago. I've been out to his place a couple of times. In fact, I spent a week with George getting to know him. And to tell the rest of the listening audience who George is, he is one of the early contactees of the 1950s who started a publication about what he learned from the UFO occupants. He also built a machine in the desert that cost about $80,000 to build, that he said they told him to build and to leave it there, and when time was right, they'd come back and calibrate it for him and turn it on, and it was a device to allow travel in time, in addition to other things. There's no way of telling whether this thing is real or not, but I can say that George displayed the seeming telepathic ability that I have witnessed in hundreds of cases, and the information that he got in this seeming telepathic manner correlated to a very, very high percent with the general information that's obtained all over the world. Therefore, I do believe that George is acting as a channel for UFO information. I can't say that the Integratron, the machine in the desert, is anything but a large chicken coop, because it never has done anything. I mean, someday maybe these troops will land in a UFO and say, all you have to do is this and this, and it'll run.
But it is sitting there.
It's sitting there. You can see it. In fact, you can see it from 33,000 feet as you go into, or 31,000 going into Los Angeles Airport. Just as you start your descent, if you look down to the right, when you're on the localizer, you can see the Integratron if you know where to look. It's a big white building. Looks like a radar dome.
Line 4, you're on Open Up.
I wanted to ask about the television station being taken over in England, and ask Don Elkins whether if he knew that had been explained. And I also wanted to ask if he knew anything about a visual phenomenon around Franklin, Georgia, about 10 or 12 years ago. And I wanted to ask him about if he had heard a report that Charles Berlitz, who wrote a book about the Bermuda Triangle, was back in the Bermuda Triangle supposedly investigating a pyramid supposedly in the Atlantic Ocean. And also I'd like to ask him if he was familiar with Patrick Flanagan and if he knew maybe what he was up to now.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hope you remember all those questions.
Yeah, okay, I'll answer the one about Franklin, Georgia first, because I don't know anything about it and get it out of the way. Pat Flanagan, I don't know what he's up to now. I really don't know what his game is. So I don't know anything about him. I do know the man, and I know about his pyramid investigations. All I know about Charles Berlitz is that he has been reported to be investigating a pyramid larger than the pyramid at Giza in the Bermuda Triangle. And the other question,
TV
which
takeover,
has to do with the seemingly TV takeover in England. This happened about 2 months ago, I believe.
well, the story was a voice came over.
A voice came over broke into the television picture in a 70-mile radius close to London. And there was a long message to Earthman. Now, the message was the standard message. I've talked a little bit about this message. It correlated. The message made sense. What we don't know is whether the message came from a UFO or whether the message came from somebody on the ground who knew the message and somehow electronically interrupted the television signals. Now, I called a friend of mine, John Whitmore, in London just the day after this happened, and he said he was investigating and working on it. And the last time I talked to him, he said that he thought it was quite possibly the work of an Earth person, not someone on board a UFO.
Okay. Line number 1, you're on Open Up.
Okay, I'd like to know if the Bigfoot mystery, how that ties in with UFOs, and if there are any other entities around the world, and also if there's anyone at Georgia Tech I could contact about UFOs.
Georgia Tech?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I haven't any idea at all about anyone at Georgia Tech. The Bigfoot mystery is related to the UFO phenomena. It's one of the fringe areas. There have been a lot of reports of Bigfoot in the vicinity of landed UFOs. Quite a few reports, particularly in Pennsylvania, have to do with Bigfoot UFO relationships. I'll just give one quick example. And the messages, at least this message, that was obtained in the telepathic nature correlated with the general message. Was this 1970? I believe it was 1973, August, in central Pennsylvania. around 9 p.m., a dozen farmers observed a UFO at high altitude. It descended and it landed in a field. It appeared to be about 100 feet in diameter, white and glowing brightly. A 21-year-old and two 10-year-old boys jumped in a car and went up to investigate. The 21-year-old had a .30-06 rifle. When they got within 175 yards of the UFO, the engine died, the lights went off, the car wouldn't run. They got out and proceeded on foot. Shortly after they got out of the car, they saw two large-like creatures come from behind the UFO and walk beside a 6-foot-high fence. From this, they were able to tell that the creatures were approximately 7 and 8 feet tall. The creatures came toward them. When they got within about 100 feet, they could easily tell that they were Bigfoot type. They were able to later describe them carefully and make drawings, and it was a class of Bigfoot. The 21-year-old fired a warning shot over their heads, but they didn't stop. They kept coming at him. He panicked and fired a .30-06 round directly into the 8-foot one, dead center. Had no effect at all, but the UFO vanished instantly, leaving a glowing ring of light on the ground. He fired 2 more shots directly into the big one. After the 3rd shot, the big one tapped the little one on the shoulder, and they turned around and walked back into the woods. Highway patrol showed up. Highway patrolman could still read a newspaper by the glowing ring of light on the ground. He went up to the woods to investigate, but heard some crashing noises and got a little panicky and jumped in his car and took off. MUFON investigating team headed by Stan Gordon showed up and questioned all the witnesses. At this point, the 21-year-old who had fired the shots went sort of out of his mind. He started attacking the people around him. He was attacked by his dog. He knocked 3 of the farmers to the ground and sent the dog howling off in the bushes. And when they finally got him down and got him calm, he said, "Don't you see him? He's over there in the corner." And they said, "Who?" And they didn't see anybody. He says, "A man over in the black cape in the corner." And they still didn't see anyone at all. He says, "He's telling me something. He's telling me that if man does not straighten up, the end is near." Well, this is one of the more drastic UFO communications. It does fit in. It's a puzzle piece that fits in. There's a lot more to this story. I can't go into it because it would take more time than we have available in several of these programs. A follow-up study was done by an eminent psychiatrist, Berthold Schwartz, who is a UFO investigator for Flying Saucer Review, the most prestigious London-based investigating outfit. It's a very carefully analyzed thing, and the puzzle pieces do fit. There have been several other cases of Bigfoot being shot, and in a couple of the cases he vanished as if a photo flash bulb went off, just a bright flash of light when he was shot.
When you said this spacecraft vanished from Pennsylvania, how did it vanish? It
like that.
Never went back up or anything?
No, just vanished like that. That happens quite a bit.
That's the time thing?
That's the channel changing that we're talking about.
It's just like you turn the television set off. It's gone.
Okay, more on UFOs right after these words. Don Elkins and Carla Rueckert are with us, and we're talking about UFOs. They have together written this book, Secrets of the UFO. And while we're in the break, Carla mentioned to me that if you have made a sighting, there's an address you can write to. So if you want to get a pencil, what we'll do is give you a couple minutes to get a pencil, then I'll give you the address to write if you make a sighting. But also call your police if that should happen, because if it's valid enough, hopefully they'll get to the right people. And maybe Don and Carl will come by and investigate you. Big question we've been having. How does all this fit in with God, the Bible, the whole routine there?
It's a very important question, and I'm speaking not as a scientist because I was trained as a writer and as a librarian, but as a practicing Christian. I firmly feel that the UFO message has a good deal to offer to anyone who is either a Christian or not. The spiritual has often disturbed those who attempt to go to church and don't find everything they want there. There are different paths for different people, and what the UFO message has as its very unique gift is an ability to cut through the theology of various religions and deal with the heart of truth, whatever that may be, on a very personal basis, so that you can work yourself on your own path, whether it is Christianity or whatever it is that you really need for your own spiritual evolution.
Ron Kirk, our floor man that I mentioned while the break was on, or is there any chance the UFOs are looking for one particular person? Or a person that would fit into what they want to say, tell the world, hey, here's the message?
Well, there are different types of UFO contact because there are so many different types of UFOs, it seems, from so many different places. There seems to be just precisely the type you're talking about. They're looking for certain people. In the case of Charlie Hickson at Pascagoula in 1973, he was taken on board the ship, we believe, because he was selected. There was a definite reason. There's a long story behind why that happened. But he was one of these people. Now, in other cases, they're not looking for anybody. They just happen to land and come in contact with somebody. It's simply because in one case we've got a special mission UFO who's coming here for a specific thing, like Charlie Hickson. In another case, we've got just a random contact. So either answer is right.
Okay. Hope you got your pencil. Here's the address. If you make a sighting, Aerial Phenomena Research Organization, or APRO, 3910 East Kleinedale Road. 3910 East Kleinedale Road. That's K-L-E-I-N-D-A-L-E. Tucson, Arizona, zip code 85712. 85712. Now, they will also supply people with information if somebody just wanted to write and ask a question?
Certainly, membership subscriptions are something like $10 a year. They would give you that information. They have a regular newsletter.
Okay. Line number 2, you're on Open Up.
Yes, I wanted to know what you think about the theory that aliens live in the Earth's core and get in there by openings at the North and South Pole, and the coincidence that Betty and Barney Miller had when they described the part of the universe where the aliens came from and the computer that mapped the location in space that was the same as she described it.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Who wants to answer that?
Yeah. I'm not going to comment on the hollow Earth theory because I have no data on it at all. I know nothing about it. I know of it. I've read the books. I haven't got any opinion at all. About the Betty and Barney Hill thing, they were taken on board a UFO in 1961, and they started the chain of physical examination type experiences on board UFOs. There have been lots and lots of those since then. Betty Hill was able to remember under hypnosis a star map that she saw in the UFO, and Mrs. Fish, just about 2-3 years ago, just a few years ago, was able, after making hundreds of models, able to develop a computerized model of the star map and found that it actually represented a system of stars very, very close to the horizon when viewed from this hemisphere. However, the direction of view was not from the Earth out, but from beyond the stars toward the Earth, and it fit perfectly. So this is one of the strange coincidences that make you stop and think possibly the hard data on UFOs is a valuable thing.
Sadly enough, Zeta Reticuli is not visible from the observatories in North America, and we don't have observatories in South America that can keep watch for radio signals from Zeta Reticuli.
Line number 3, you're on Open Up.
Hello there. I would like to ask Mr. Elkins about the power plant. He made reference earlier to the power plant in a ship, and I'd like to know what he can tell us about the power plants, the way that they are powered. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, if I knew how they were powered, I'd build one. All I can tell you is the geometry. The geometry was what is called the classical Venusian bellcraft. There are 3 spheres on the bottom of the ship. You only see a hemisphere from the outside or the inside. The sergeant saw the hemisphere from the inside. They're at 120-degree intervals, and then they have rods running from the spheres to a central control box in the center of the ship. Sergeant Moody's observation was the inside observation one would expect from the outside geometry of the classical bellcraft.
Okay, line 4, you're on Open Up.
Yes, we're from Pocatello, Idaho. We live here, and one question that we did want to ask, about 2 years ago, we had a lot of controversy here on cattle mutilations. There was never any evidence of malpractice or anything, and the sexual organs of the animals had been taken out. No blood was found around the animals, and they had no explanation for it. And we was wondering if you could give us some kind of information, or if you knew anything on this to tell us, because we never did find out anything, what the answer was to it.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for your call, all the way from Pocatello.
That's one of the things we're still working on very actively. There are thousands of these mutilations all over the place. Talked for about an hour a few months ago to a deputy sheriff in Montana who had investigated several dozen of the mutilations. In many cases, the cattle have been found in fresh snow, no tracks leading to the cow or away from it, just a melted area of snow about 6 feet in diameter around the cow. Mutilation seems to be standard, that is, certain parts are removed, the same parts are removed each time. There have been numerous unidentified objects sighted in the air close to the mutilation sites. Now, this type of phenomena is not related to, and we're pretty certain of this, is not related to the other type of UFO contact. This is a separate phenomena, but it is a paranormal phenomena. That is, it's the type of phenomena that we were talking about, the materialization type of phenomena. There is a watery theory available, but it's cumbersome, long, and I can't get into it now. I really can't say too much more about this at this time because our data just isn't good enough.
There's a story that's been in the paper. It was in January, then again earlier this week, from Port Lavaca, Texas. They've had some strange, unidentified noises out there, like a sonic boom. Are you familiar with that? Nobody can explain it. The story said smoke detectors in homes were activated right before the noises started.
This is sort of I was personally involved with just about a month and a half ago. I've forgotten the exact date, but the booms started over the East Coast about 2 months ago.
Maybe New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Just before they started, I happened to be sitting across the breakfast table from Andrei Puharich when he started getting communication on his wristwatch. If you've read the book, you know about his watch communications. He has a double watch and he gets a code. He has a book coming out this summer that tells all about the watch communications. It's called Time No Longer. But he started getting communication. He says, hey, I'm getting one. And I went over and looked at his watch, and sure enough, it had stopped on the 9 and everything was going along nicely. Well, the message was very short. It said, the decree of the 9, explosions boiling. We didn't know what it meant. A few days later, the explosions start going off. So we're still working on it. We haven't got any idea what the message means or what the explosions mean, but possibly he'll get another communication and we'll find out.
Okay, we're just about out of time. The book, once again, is Secrets of the UFO, and it's co-authored by Don Elkins and Carla Rueckert, who were kind enough to stay up to this early hour and answer all the nice calls we had and talk to us a little bit about UFOs. And once again, if we make a sighting or if make contact with one, be nice to them, right?
Right. They're nice people.
Okay. And we gave the address a couple times on the air for the people that want to pick up your book. It tells you all about the UFOs. It goes from as we said earlier, different stories of sightings to the telepathic communications. Interesting book. And thanks again for being with us.